Hello and a very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. First up, a look at the headlines. Relentless shelling continues across the international border in Jammu and Kashmir. Prime Minister gives defence forces free hand to deal with the violations. No talks, says the government, till firing stops. Rahul Gandhi steps in to take the fight to the BJP and the Prime Minister Modi ahead of the polls in Maharashtra, accuses Modi of marketing tactics over governance. Robert Vadra and Haryana government let off by the Election Commission on alleged poll code violation on the land deal case. First person diagnosed with Ebola within the US dies. US announces tight screening measures at entry points to check travelers for Ebola symptoms. And India lose the opening one-day international against the West Indies in Kochi by 124 runs. Well, shelling continued through the night along the line of control and India-Pak border. Close to 60 border outposts and villages are being targeted by Pakistan. Hundreds of people have already been evacuated. The Prime Minister yesterday gave a free hand to the Indian forces to deal with the crisis, with the government clarifying that there is no possibility of talks till the firing stops, and there are no signs of that just yet.
मेरे से बात नहीं हो रही, डर लग रहा है मेरे को, बच्चे चले गए ना उधर से, मेरे को नहीं बात हो रही। पूरी रात लोग सोए नहीं हैं।
Pakistan continued shelling along the international border in Jammu and Kashmir, killing 2 women and injuring 15 others, including 3 BSF jawans. The death toll since the violations began on October 1st is now up to 8. Pakistani Rangers targeted 50 border outposts and 35 hamlets overnight along the 192-kilometer boundary.
जब से बॉर्डर का फायरिंग शुरू हुआ है तो उसमें सिक्योरिटी के जो अरेंजमेंट्स हैं, वो चाहे एलओसी है चाहे आईबी है, उस पे उनको बढ़ाया गया है। जितने भी हमारे इन्फिल्ट्रेशन के रूट्स हैं उनको कवर किया गया।
Firing stopped late Tuesday night along the line of control in Mendhar and Poonch sectors after Indian forces gave a befitting reply. A BSF spokesperson said almost all its posts in Samba, Hiranagar belt of Kathua district were targeted by the Park Rangers. Firing in some areas of Arnia was still going on Wednesday morning.
143.
The response from this side is quite unlike as it has been in the earlier such occasion. It's a very befitting reply given to the other side, and that's being felt by the other side as well as being realized over here, and I think this is something each citizen of India needs to be proud of.
We are giving answer. In fact, we have been retaliating very heavily. निशाना तो सबसे पहले बीएसएफ के पोस्ट को, बीएसएफ के ठिकानों को बनाया जा रहा है, लेकिन जब उन्हें ऐसा लग रहा है कि हमारा कोई ज्यादा नुकसान बीएसएफ के पोस्ट का नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, तो शायद वो रिहायशी इलाके पर भी कर रहे हैं।
तो ये फ्लैग
कोई भी ट्रेन फोर्स कोई भी ऐसा काम नहीं करती है।
The state's chief minister has directed the administration to take all requisite measures for ensuring safety of the people in areas hit by shelling from across the border. The escalation of violence has triggered an exodus, with 16,000 people moving to safer areas from border villages.
जितने भी बॉर्डर विलेजेस हैं उनसे हट के जो जगह हैं, उसमें जो गवर्नमेंट बिल्डिंग्स हैं या कुछ प्राइवेट बैंक्वेट हॉल वगैरह हैं, उनमें अरेंजमेंट्स किए गए लोगों के रहने के। तो इस वक्त जैसे जम्मू डिस्ट्रिक्ट में करीब 10 कैंप्स चल रहे हैं कि जो लोग भी वहाँ पे ठहर रहे हैं रात में टाइम, वो खुले में ना सोएं, छत पर ना सोएं, कोर्टयार्ड में ना सोएं, और घर में भी जहाँ तक हो सके ग्राउंड फ्लोर पर ही सोएं।
Terming the ceasefire violations and firing from across the LOC as quite serious, IAF Chief Arup Raha said India wants a quick resolution to the problem. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Joining me on the program this morning is defense analyst Arisan Singh. Very good morning, Arisan, and welcome to the show. So far the government has given the armed forces a free hand to retaliate. Are you happy with the kind of decision that has been taken by the government? Is the right message being sent out?
I think the best decision that this government took was to disengage from talks with Pakistan. Because this cycle of terror and talks, I mean, these talks were giving oxygen to this terror. And when you see this situation on the border in entirety, you must not dissociate proxy war, terrorism, and what is happening on the border. You can't see them in isolation. This is a package that has been unleashed on you from Pakistan for many, many years.
Yes.
Now, some people say, about escalation. Tell me, was not 26/11 escalation? But we acted with restraint. Was not Herat an escalation? Yet we acted with restraint. We have every right, and a very legitimate right, to strike those training camps which are, which are sending these infiltrators across or terrorists across. But so far we have exercised restraint. But now when this is happening, and all this, if you see, this is a consequence of the internal dynamics of Pakistan. They want to see, the army wants to see the last of Nawaz Sharif. They tried to dislodge him by going for an attack on Herat. They failed. Then they unleashed Qadri and Nawaz Sharif, trying to stage some kind of a soft coup. They failed. Then after Mr. Modi's visit to US and called failure of Mr. Nawaz Sharif at the UN to highlight Kashmir at the UN platform. I mean, now that this has started. So are we such a, I mean, we are a much bigger neighbor, more powerful neighbor. Do we become victims of internal dynamics of Pakistan? Does it behove of us? So the best thing I think this government has done is that it has broken this cycle of, terror and talks. And today, diplomatically, that is why Pakistan, that oxygen has been taken out of that proxy war.
So where is this heading now? Of course, we've seen that, continued shelling, continued attacks by Pakistan. These are not, really major attacks, it's just like, hide, shoot and go back kind of attacks right now. So where do you see this heading?
See, in this kind of, exchange of mortar fire, yes, when you are caught by surprise, there are initial casualties. But as far as casualties by firing is concerned, I think they would have stabilized by now. Most areas are already evacuated, and the troops there, whether it is of BSF or the army, they have taken to their position. So you will not find many casualties now. And well, it is up for Pakistan to decide how much it wants to escalate.
So is India prepared, are you saying, this time around? Is India ready to go to war if it comes down to that? I'm not saying it has to come down to that. Nobody wants war. But do you see this government not backing down?
I mean, if you back down, you will be inviting another 26/11 on you. So, I mean, every country is supposed to be prepared for war at all times. If it is not prepared, then you are abandoning your sacred duty towards your people. So, I mean, I see no other way.
Okay.
And remember, if at the behest of some power, external powers, or because of internal pressures, you enter again into talks. You are again giving you would be giving another huge impetus to terrorism and proxy war. Then you have to be prepared for other 26/11.
So that's the way forward. You're saying no talks, like the government and the Prime Minister has
so
said.
simple.
Till you stop firing, till there is no terror, we will not talk.
Yes, no infiltration, no terror, no firing. And yes, talks can resume after that. It is as simple as that.
Okay, well, even if talks resume, RSN, I mean, how are they going to resume? Because in Pakistan is a crumbling state. The army clearly is not allowing the democracy to function there. So how are these talks going to be, going to be taken forward? Is it time to talk to the Pakistani army? Is it talk to the Prime Minister? How do you take it forward?
No, I mean, see, we all know who calls the shots in Pakistan, but the structure is such that you cannot engage directly, and nor it is advisable. But I am very sure that people make the military intelligence establishment some huge monster which cannot be bridled. It can be bridled. Let me tell you that Pakistan military has lot of tentacles abroad. Most of these generals and senior officers, they send their children abroad. And there are enough of leverages that can be exercised on them. So it is not that they cannot be contained or restrained or bridled. So what the government is now doing is absolutely perfectly in order.
All right, everything is perfectly in order, but do you see some kind of, the Pakistani side has approached the UN? Do you see any kind of an outside intervention as far as this matter is concerned?
I think last what we saw at the UN, the entire international community is absolutely bored and fed up with Pakistan.
So Pakistan has no option now, is what you're saying?
Imagine, it's not that Pakistan at this moment is bordering in, it borders India. At this moment, it is also bordering NATO by virtue of their presence in Pakistan. So the Western countries have seen, the machinations of Pakistan army from very close. Even on Pakistan border, few weeks back, they had fired 4,000 to 5,000 rockets, and only to depopulate those areas so that Pakistan Taliban could be settled there.
Indeed. All right, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much, RSN Singh, for joining us this morning on the program and sharing your valuable inputs with us. Much appreciate you joining on us. Now, of course, let's bring you all the news from the election-bound states of Maharashtra and Haryana. Moving on to the election scene in Haryana and Maharashtra. Now, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi was on the campaign trail for the first time yesterday. In his two rallies, Rahul Gandhi directly attacked the Prime Minister, accusing him of marketing tactics over real governance. Needless to say, the BJP struck back. Here's more.
Following Prime Minister Narendra Modi's blitzkrieg campaign in Maharashtra ahead of assembly polls on 15th October, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi began his campaign trail in the state. He is set to campaign at 4 different rallies in the state, which is far outnumbered by Modi's rallies over the last 3 days. Rahul addressed his first rally in Rajya district to campaign for former Chief Minister Prithviraj Chavan. He criticized PM Modi for questioning Congress's achievements in the last 60 years. He claims BJP is only good at marketing.
कहते हैं कि 60 साल से यहां कुछ नहीं हुआ, तो वो बाबा साहब अंबेडकर जी पे सवाल उठाते हैं, महात्मा गांधी जी पे सवाल उठाते हैं, पटेल जी पे सवाल उठाते हैं, नेहरू जी पे सवाल उठाते हैं, और सिर्फ इन लोगों पे सवाल नहीं उठाते हैं, वो आपके ऊपर सवाल उठाते हैं, आपके माता पिता के ऊपर सवाल उठाते हैं.
He also took a dig at Narendra Modi over the ceasefire violations by Pakistan. Rahul accused the Prime Minister of not having a clear foreign policy to deal with either Pakistan or China.
प्रधानमंत्री जी ने पाकिस्तान की बात की, चीन की बात की, और कुछ समय पहले चीन के राष्ट्रपति यहां आए थे, और हिंदुस्तान की हिस्ट्री में पहली बार ऐसा हुआ है कि एक तरफ हमारे प्रधानमंत्री चीन के राष्ट्रपति के साथ झूला झूल रहे हैं, और दूसरी तरफ लद्दाख में हजारों चीन के सिपाही हमारे देश के अंदर घुसे पड़े हैं.
However, BJP chief Amit Shah dismissed opposition criticism that his party is incapable of dealing with the ceasefire violations. He reiterated what he had been saying in his rallies in Haryana till Tuesday.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार आने से पहले सोनिया जी आपकी सरकार थी, तब भी पाकिस्तान की सरहद पर से गोलीबारी होती थी और आज भी होती है. आप कहते हैं क्या फर्क पड़ गया? पहले भी गोलीबारी होती थी, आज भी हो रही है. सोनिया जी, आपको दिखाई नहीं पड़ेगा, आपकी आंख पर विदेशी चश्मा है, आपको दिखाई नहीं पड़ेगा.
BJP has been facing severe criticism from opposition parties over the Prime Minister's extensive campaigns in the poll-bound states. By raising the issue of foreign policies, Rahul Gandhi has cleared the Congress's strategy to tackle the BJP's attempt to exploit Modi's image in the assembly polls too. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Sonia Gandhi's son-in-law Robert Vadra and the Haryana government have been let off by the Election Commission on the alleged poll code violation in the land deal case. The Election Commission has decided that a controversial land deal involving Vadra that was sanctioned recently by the Haryana government does not violate election rules. The BJP had described the legitimization of the deal between Vadra and real estate major DLF as a parting gift from the state's Congress government to the party's first family. Haryana Chief Minister Bhupinder Singh Hooda had said the deal was cleared following proper procedure in July before the Model Code of Conduct kicked in. And for all the election-related buzz and stories from the campaign trail, watch our special election bulletin Verdict 2014 every day at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Moving on now, the Odisha government is to hold a high-level meet today to take stock of preparedness for the cyclonic storm Hudhud, which is expected to hit Andhra Pradesh and Odisha coast by October 12th. The National Crisis Management Committee meeting will be attended, among others, by representatives of Home Ministry, Met Department, National Disaster Response Force and Armed Forces. The meeting comes after Met Department report suggested the very severe cyclonic storm is likely to hit Andhra Pradesh and the coast of Odisha by October 12th and unleash heavy rainfall and gusty winds with speed of up to 155 kilometers per hour. 4 teams of the NDRF have already left for Visakhapatnam. High alert has been issued in coastal areas.
हमने सैटेलाइट फोन्स को भी देने की सोची है कि सैटेलाइट फोन्स हम वहाँ आंध्र प्रदेश को और उड़ीसा को देंगे. उसके अलावा कल से हमारा राउंड द क्लॉक कंट्रोल रूम स्टार्ट हो जाएगा. We are emphasizing more on setting up the communication network.
Well, it's time for a short break now, but on the other side, Islamic State fighters renew advance in Syrian border town of Kobani. That and other world news on the other side. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, Ebola tensions have surged in the United States as the first person to be diagnosed with Ebola within the country died late last night in a Texas hospital. Taking further precautions, US has decided to start high-level screening in 5 airports. Ebola worries mount in Spain too. The UN has expressed fresh concern on the spread of the virus. Here's a report.
A heightened sense of anxiety prevails in US as the first person to be diagnosed with Ebola within the country died last night.
Today we are deeply saddened by the death of the patient in Dallas. Despite maximal interventions, we learned today that he passed away.
42-year-old Thomas Eric Duncan was treated with an experimental drug in isolation. Following Duncan's death, Dallas County Sheriff's deputy was hospitalized after he showed possible Ebola symptoms. The patient had been in Dallas' apartment where Thomas Eric Duncan had been staying. US has stepped up precautionary measures, declaring high-level screening in all 5 international airports.
Starting at JFK on Saturday, and at the 4 other airports that were mentioned in the following week, and that was Dulles, Newark, Chicago, and Atlanta. These 5 airports represent about 94, nearly 95% of all of the 150 travelers per day who arrive from these 3 countries.
In Spain too, anxieties over Ebola are showing as scuffles broke out outside Ebola-affected Spanish nurse's house over a decision by the government to euthanize her pet dog as a precautionary measure. Reports suggest that the Spanish nurse is getting better. Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy urged people to stay calm.
En fin, yo creo que hay algunas cosas que es bueno que tengamos claro. Es decir, es un tema serio, es un tema importante. Hoy hemos conocido las últimas noticias en Estados Unidos y desde luego, como tal, nos lo tomamos en serio.
United Nations expressed concerns that Ebola is increasing in an exponential way. Britain is sending extra troops, aircraft and a naval vessel to Sierra Leone.
And to get on top of that kind of epidemic curve requires an absolutely massive response. I've asked for a 20-fold increase in response compared with what we had at the end of August.
The Liberian president has complained that international aid to battle Ebola is coming in too slowly.
We just need to see a little bit faster action, that's all. But certainly in terms of resources, both human and financial, as well as material, I think the response is well appreciated and is very good.
Fear and anxiety that looms in worst affected Sierra Leone. Police and health workers in protective suits collected the body of a young man on Wednesday. According to his neighborhood, he didn't die of Ebola, but his body was collected by men in full protective gear. No stone is being left unturned, but the panic shows none at less. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Islamic State fighters have renewed their advance in the Syrian border town of Kobani as the US warned that airstrikes alone could not save it. The US-led coalition has made initial gains, but latest reports suggest that the militants have entered parts of the city amid heavy fighting. The UN has called for more concrete action.
This is the heart of the war against the Islamic State, the town of Kobani on the border between Syria and Turkey. After relentless fighting for over 3 weeks now, Kurdish forces have finally managed to reclaim control of this small but strategic town. The Kurds got support both from the air as well as on land, a combination of US fighter jets as well as Turkish tanks. US airstrikes have been crucial in turning the tide in favor of the Kurds, the lethal strikes pushing back IS fighters to the edges of Kobani. IS managed to hoist its black flag on the eastern edge of the town Monday, but since then, the airstrikes have redoubled. Meanwhile, across the border, Turkey has come under increasing pressure to join an international coalition to fight the militants. The UN envoy for Syria urging more decisive action from the international community.
The city of Kobani, on the northern border of Syria, close to Turkey, has been under siege now for 3 weeks. There were 400,000 inhabitants. They've been defending themselves. They're all Kurds. They've been defending themselves with great courage. But they are now very close to not being able to do so. They are fighting with normal weapons, whereas the ISIS has got tanks and mortars. The international community needs to defend them. The international community cannot sustain another city falling under ISIS.
The Canadian Parliament too voted to authorize the country's armed forces to join US airstrikes. The vote allows airstrikes for up to 6 months, but rules out the use of ground troops. The 3-week-long assault on Kobani has cost almost 400 lives and forced tens of thousands to flee. And if these pictures are anything to go by, then it'll be a long time before peace returns to this town. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And let's now take a look at some of the other news and updates from around the world in our World Wrap. Well, the Chief Minister of Pakistan's insurgency-troubled Balochistan province has said the presence of Islamic State militants cannot be ruled out in the region. Chief Abdul Malik Baloch said that the biggest problem facing the province was religious extremism and fanaticism, which had increased in the province during the last 3 decades. He said Balochistan was facing manifold problems like insurgency, sectarianism, militant groups and tribal conflicts. Ukrainian rebels in the region said that a month-old truce is all but dead and renewed calls for independence as fighting intensified. The United Nations has said that the conflict in eastern Ukraine is still claiming about 10 lives a day despite a ceasefire. Over 3,660 people have died since the fighting began in mid-April as per a UN report. Mali has asked the UN to send a rapid intervention force to fight Islamist militants in the north of the country. Malian Foreign Minister told the UN Security Council that urgent measures were needed following recent killings of UN peacekeepers. 31 UN peacekeepers have now been killed since the mission was established in July 2013 to stabilize Mali's north. Yemen's Prime Minister-designate Ahmed Awad bin Mubarak has turned down the post after threats from the Houthi rebels to hold a mass protest against his appointment. Ahmed Awad bin Mubarak was due to be appointed as the parliament as part of the United Nations brokered peace deal, but his nomination caused uproar among the Houthis, who called it the result of foreign intervention. European leaders met to discuss Europe's persistent unemployment problem but failed to reach an agreement over any new strategy funds. France and Italy pressed for an easing of budget restrictions but won no concessions from German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who insisted countries had to move faster on reforms. The leaders remained divided over whether the EU's approach to austerity should be eased. This was the third summit to tackle the issue in the last 18 months. Moving on to some sports news now. West Indies thrashed India yesterday by 124 runs in the first ODI at the Nehru Stadium in Kochi. Chasing a massive target of 326, India were all out for 197 runs in 41 overs. For India, Shikhar Dhawan was the top scorer with 68. India suffered a batting collapse, losing 5 wickets for 63 runs. India were all out for 197 in 41 overs in what turned out to be a one-sided contest at the Nehru Stadium. Earlier, India won the toss and put West Indies into bat. The Caribbeans rode on Marlon Samuel's career best, equaling 126 not out to post 321 for the loss of 6 wickets. Indian bowlers gave too many runs, with Mohammad Shami picking up 4 wickets, while Ravindra Jadeja and Amit Mishra took 1 apiece. Let's take a look at the final scores now. West Indies 321 for the loss of 6 wickets. India 197 all out in 41 overs. Marlon Samuels top scored with 126 not out for the West Indies. And for all the other sports news from around the world, here's the latest sports beat. Well, in a day of upsets, world number 2 Rafael Nadal crashed out of the Shanghai Masters tournament after suffering a 6-3, 7-6 loss to compatriot Feliciano Lopez. And ailing Nadal has been diagnosed with appendicitis and will require surgery. In other results, fourth seeded Stan Wawrinka and US Open finalist Kei Nishikori also bowed out of the tournament. Wawrinka lost to Frenchman Gael Simon, while Nishikori was ousted by American Jack Sock. Meanwhile, Roger Federer saved 5 match points and rallied from a 5-2 deficit in the third set tiebreaker before finally beating Leonardo Mayer 7-5, 3-6, 7-6 in a thrilling second-round match at the Shanghai Masters. World number 1 Novak Djokovic started his title defense with a 6-3, 6-4 win over Dominic Thiem. Andy Murray also advanced to the next round with a 7-5, 6-2 win over Jerzy Janowicz. The European Club Association has said that the 2022 Winter Olympics may have to move from its traditional January and February dates to accommodate the World Cup finals being staged in Qatar. Vice Chairman Gandhiri added that the World Cup should take precedence. FIFA had awarded the 2022 finals to Qatar in 2010, but the dates have been an issue due to the searing heat in the summers. And finally, it's Sarod Maestro Amjad Ali Khan's birthday today. Here's a tribute to the legend. Happy birthday, Ustad Amjad Ali Khan. Have a great day.